In today's video, I'm going to show you the highest leverage way to make an income using Claude Code. I'm going to be walking you through step by step, showing you exactly how I make $566 per hour building websites for real clients in the real world with real demand using vibe coding. Now look, web development isn't anything new. It's been around for a while. Now I am going to give you guys a caveat here. To be honest, a website like this does require some back and forth with the client, so there is some extra time factored in. But what I'm showing you today is how to draft this website up and get a skeleton for it as fast as possible. And I truly believe that it's easier than ever to develop websites for clients. Throughout my career, I've developed hundreds of websites, and what used to take weeks now just takes one day. So throughout this video, I'm going to give you the entire process from that initial meeting that you have with the client, taking an invoice and taking payment, building the website, and then delivering the website and getting revisions. Now, vibe coding comes with its own set of risks and things that you need to learn. That's why I've developed this new curriculum here called Amateur to Engineer. So what this is going to do is it's going to take you from the economics of AI, how it's changing software development. It's going to talk about some different vibe coding tools. And then I'm going to get into the technicals, and I'm going to show you guys how to install all of the tools that you're going to need if you want to do ongoing software development with these new technologies. We start with the basics like Python, and I even go in depth on APIs and API credentials so that you understand everything that you need to know about how these technologies talk to each other. And throughout it all, I just teach everything that I've learned about Claude Code and the development lifecycle. Within Amateur to Engineer, I also have a series called Uncut Coding, and this is really a raw build style where you get to watch me build different projects, go through bugs, go through pitfalls, and really just figure out how to deploy at the end of the day. I'm not saying you don't have to learn some things. In fact, that's exactly where this course slots in because it teaches you the important things that you need to know, and we kind of glaze over the unimportant things like in-depth code syntax and memorizing things that aren't going to help you, and we just get down to the core of shipping software, shipping websites. Even for someone who's coming into this as a layman, this is the best way to get started. So definitely check out that link in the description below at any point here if you're interested in checking out Amateur to Engineer. Now let's get into building this website. In today's episode of Uncut Coding, I am going to be building a website that I was contracted for, and I'm going to be taking you guys along with me through every step. Now, this is a website that I've received half down payment for. This isn't a giant website. It's a simple, pretty much one page or a couple page website. And the first place that I want to start is just by showing you guys the proposal for this website. So this is the pages to build. This company does autoclave cleaning. So basically they clean industrial sterilizer equipment, and they also install it and repair it and do sort of like maintenance on it. So these guys will go into a hospital, they'll fix something. If you guys know anybody who's in this industry, or if you're in this industry, you're looking for somebody good, these guys travel all around the Midwest and the East Coast. They may even travel to the West Coast and other parts of the US if your project is suitable, but they do all kinds of this stuff. So their main target person is essentially somebody who works at a hospital, maybe the hospital's director, somebody who's in charge of making sure everything runs smoothly. And they are contracted to come in and do these different services here. So these are going to be their SEO keywords that we kind of hit with their services pages. And so we're going to build out all of those pages. We're also going to build out the homepage with testimonials, a lead form, locations serviced, and we'll have a contact us page as well with that same lead form from the homepage. So all of this would be doable on something like WordPress if you wanted to roll this out with WordPress. In fact, we're working on some ways to make WordPress more vibe coding friendly and quicker to work with. But for this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys a Claude Code rollout. Also going to be rolling out a Google Suite account for them. This is just a sign up process that I'll have to go through to set up those Google accounts for them. And I can just jump on a call with them and get that done really quick. Another thing that they wanted is QR code sticker templates. So these will take them directly to these different pages like sterilizer maintenance, sterilizer repair, those sorts of things. So these QR codes are going to be really good for that later down the line. And I might even make it simple for them to say log in and generate a QR code or like a sticker template for any of these pages here. So that'll be there. And then the $1,700 one-time investment, have to up front. This is where like I pitch what I'm paying or what they're paying for this project. I give them a timeline, what I need to get started, and I've already gotten some of this stuff. So I'm going to start cracking away at this website, but if you guys want to use this web design proposal template, I've used it to sell hundreds of websites at this point. It's a simple Google Doc template that I use, and you guys could probably even code up some kind of workflow with N8N that generates these documents. You just tell AI how to fill them out. But this is kind of the format that I recommend for proposals. And then for invoicing, I use Simple Invoices. So it's just simpleinvoices.io, I believe. Yeah, simpleinvoices.io. It's $10 a month, I believe. Okay, they raised their price to $15 a month, but it just integrates right in with your Stripe account, and you can generate invoices, sales pages, client management. You can do payments. This is just a really easy way to send invoices through Stripe if you want to use this. So the process is I meet with them, I sit down, I talk about what their website is going to entail, and then I'll create one of these, which I have a simple template in Google Docs, and then I'll generate an invoice with Simple Invoices, send that over in an email along with this, and then once they give me half down, I begin development, and that's what I'm doing right now. These guys were kind enough to allow me to use them as an example, but if you guys, like I said, if you guys do need any of these services, I know they're a bit niche, but if you know anybody in the hospital industry, this is definitely a great company to work with. They've been doing this all over the Midwest and East Coast for years now, and they're some of the best. A lot of these guys are kind of like fly by night, but these guys really take care of you, and that's why they have this long-term relationship with like maintenance, repair. You can even buy detergent for the machines through them. So there's all kinds of great services they provide. So yeah, definitely give them your business if you're interested in working with them. Now let's go ahead and dive into actually building this thing. So the next step is I'm going to open up Claude Code and I'm going to get a project started. First things first, I'm just going to create a project folder where this can live. So I'm just going to CD into my documents, CD to projects, and we will make a directory for PSSC. And that's the kind of like abbreviation for their company. And now I'll CD into there. And now we can get started with Claude. Now, before I do this, I want to make sure that I have an idea of, where we're going to store things, how we're going to handle that. I want to make it the least complicated stack possible. So they're not going to have account logins or anything like that. It's just going to be a very simple static website. With that being said, a lot of this stuff can just be hosted directly on the site. So we're probably not going to go with the database just because I want to avoid any additional struggle with like keeping it updated and such. So we'll just host everything right there. We may want to hook up a CDN for image sourcing and sharing, but a lot of this stuff is going to be a static website. So I'll open up Claude and I'm just going to grab my pages to build. The contact form, that will need some kind of underlying data structure for their contact form. So we may need a basic database to hold that kind of stuff. And the more I'm thinking about this, it might be good to have something that can show them basically what people have filled out a form. So should I add a backend? Should I not? That's the question. Well, I can send them emails. So as I'm thinking this through, I'm thinking that N8N will be a great way to do this because I can just create a workflow on my own N8N account, and then I can have these leads sent over to a spreadsheet for them, but I can also send them an email over Gmail, and all we need to do is hit a webhook with N8N, and that should be a good route to take. We may need the form to have some kind of CAPTCHA on it or some kind of rate limiting to make sure that it doesn't cause any issues or like overwhelm my N8N account. But other than that, I think we should be good to go with this. So I'm just going to start by giving it some instructions here. I'm going to build a website for this local business, and I'm going to give you a list of the pages to build. I want this website to be as static as possible. I don't want anything on it that's going to cause any downtime or any concurrency issues. We pretty much just want to serve them the website as is. The only bit that will be slightly back-end focused is a contact form, and I want that contact form to interact with an N8N workflow through a webhook. So we'll have to have an environment variable where we put in that webhook and an API key in order to authenticate that webhook. Other than that, everything should have global styles that are easily configurable in the code base, such as fonts, colors, headers, etc. Here's a list of the preliminary pages. Create a plan to build this website and a basic env template in the example.env. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in the site, and we'll send that off. And I'm just going to wait for Claude to think through this and create a plan for me, and then we'll touch base with you guys and show you what we've built. Okay, so it's asking what tech stack I want, understandably so. Help me think through the tech stack a bit. I'm thinking something that works well for static websites, something that's easy to build with and edit and create page templates with, something lightweight and fast loading, mainly just HTML and CSS. I'm going to go ahead and send that off. So it's recommended that I use Astro. I'm just going to ask it to tell me a little bit more about Astro and the ease of deployment. Okay, I'm open to Astro, but please tell me more about it. And also let me know the ease of deployment if I wanted to use something like Netlify to deploy. And I'm just going to make sure that it typed in Netlify right, because that is a key point here. All right, let's take a look here. So build times for 10 pages, it takes 5 to 15 seconds. That's great. Environment variables via UI or netlify.toml, instant rollbacks to previous versions. Okay, this looks pretty good. Global CDN, fast worldwide. It's good. Zero configuration. Netlify recognizes Astro automatically. Instant cache invalidation on deploys. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So you put it on a GitHub repo and then deploy it. Pretty simple. Oh, Netlify CLI is another option here. All right, so I've decided for image hosting, I'm just going to use Amazon S3 for this. So I'm just going to create a bucket where I can upload the images. And we'll just go with general purpose. Bucket name, we'll go with PSSC. And since all of the images that I upload to this bucket are going to be publicly facing anyways, I'm going to turn off the block all public access here. And I'll have to acknowledge this. And then bucket versioning. We can disable bucket versioning. We don't need different versions of the bucket. And for default encryption here, I'm just going to leave everything the same, and we'll go ahead and create the bucket. The bucket name's already taken. That makes sense. Just do business added to it, and we'll create this. All right, and now our bucket is created, so I should be able to just click into here and upload different images for our project. So first things first, I'm just going to upload the logo for the project. We'll just hit upload, and this is where I'll upload all of the images for the project in the future. And now I'm just going to let Claude know that we have an S3 bucket in here, and we can go ahead and proceed with Astro. I'm going to say, let's proceed with Astro. And just so you know, I have an S3 bucket set up where I can upload my images. So if we need a URL for any of those images, we can use it. But we're going to be deploying to Netlify through my GitHub repo. So let's begin developing the styling for global styles so that we have consistent styling across the site. And let's start getting a homepage up. Keep the code extra clean and just make sure that it's scalable so that when we add new pages, we're using the global styling for each element, and it's really easy to maintain and edit. All right, let's see what it does. All right, so here it's just installing Astro. So I'm going to say yes and yes. And it looks like it's just making a directory for everything. So I'm going to say yes there. This is just going to be for our pages, all the components that we use throughout those pages, different layouts, styles, and configurations. So that'll give us a nice folder structure to where we can go in and we can edit this later if we wanted to. Before I get any further into this video, if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more of this content, you maybe want to learn some of the fundamentals, then I would recommend you check out Amateur to Engineer. We have all kinds of fundamental knowledge that you're going to need when you're getting started with software development, especially if you're using AI tools. And we even have a series of uncut coding where I'm going to be uploading videos like this. I already have 4 videos, and this is really just a step-by-step process as I build something live. So you guys get to watch any errors that I run into, any pitfalls that I have, and it's really just the best way to learn if you're just getting started with this as a layman, or if you're a more senior engineer that's trying to sort of adapt to the new technology and the new way of doing things with AI. If you have even a hint of curiosity about this course, you can check it out using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. And next, it's creating a configuration for the global theme. And this is going to allow us to have consistent styling across the entire site. So let's take a look at what it created here, theme.js. So it's creating the breakpoints, all of the different screen sizes here, and defining a variable for those. So we have these different screen sizes coming in, and we can define that in our CSS. Container width, transitions. So it has different milliseconds for transitions if we have any animations, Z index layers for dropdown, sticky, fixed, modal backdrop, modal popover, tooltip. That's good. Shadows, it's defining border radius, spacing. We've got font weights, font sizes. It's giving us some typography that we can use. It's giving us some different colors for everything. So this looks pretty simple. It looks good. What's down here? Helper function to generate CSS custom properties from the theme. This allows you to use theme values in CSS as variables. Perfect. So this is just configuring everything in here to actually be able to be called by our CSS. So let's go ahead and hit enter on the theme.js. And now it's creating that CSS file with our design tokens, which are these variables in here that it's created. All right, perfect. So it's now creating the global CSS. So this is going to define some of these components that we have, and everything seems to look pretty good here. Yeah, this is great because it's going to allow me to just tell it to change things and use our existing CSS in the future, and the site will stay consistent. So let's just go ahead and hit enter on this to confirm. Next, it's going to create our env example. So we have N8N webhook configuration. This is where we're going to store that public N8N webhook URL and the public N8N API key, the S3 bucket URL for images. We're going to have some business information. We might be able to put some different variables in here for their SEO as well, potentially. We might put them somewhere else in configuration as well. I do want to make this nice for the SEO side of things. All right, now it's built out our header component, which is going to include our navigation and the header CTA, all of the different things that will be at the top of the website, main navigation, header with logo and menu. So let's go ahead and generate this component. And next it's going to build the main layout. So this, I imagine, is going to be the pages that we create with different cards and things like that, different text elements. Okay, so it also did the footer here. So that'll be the bottom of the website. So this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and hit yes on that. All right, and here is the main layout. So it gives us a title as well. That's pretty cool. All right, nice. So let's go ahead and hit yes. And now it's building the lead form out, so that should be good as well. Cool. It's also got a warning in there if the env isn't set up correctly for these. Okay, so let's send that off. Now that it's built all of our reusable components, it's going to use those to build a homepage with testimonials and locations. Right, so as we can see here, it's made it responsive, so that's good. It's added our contact form. Down here, it added the location grid, it added a services grid, and it also has testimonials. So this is quite a large bit of code here, but this should be good to go, and it's using all of our existing styling instructions as well from our global styles. So this should be good to go for the homepage. I'm just going to say yes on this, because it looks like it's good to go. And now it's running npm run build. So this will test the build and verify the styling consistency. All right, now it's given me some instructions here. I just need to do the npm run dev command. I do need to add the n8n webhook and API key to my env. And I need to build the remaining pages, which I can offload to Claude. It can help with that. And then I also need to add the real content. So I need to add our S3 image URLs in here so that it can pull our images and use those for the site. We need to replace the placeholder testimonials and update some business information. But let's go ahead and take a look by using this npm run dev. And I'm just going to exit out of here, and we'll just paste that into our project directory and hit enter. And now it's running on localhost 4321. So I'll copy this and we'll open it up in our web browser here. So let's see what we've got. Just going to make this a bit smaller. Okay, awesome. So it does have mobile responsiveness out of the gate. I can't click on this yet, so we will need to fix that hamburger icon right there. But for now, let's just expand it slightly into the desktop mode here. So services and contact won't work yet because we haven't built those pages. Get a quote, I'm not sure if that one will work, but let's check out what they've got. So our services, view all services, why choose them, what clients are saying, areas we serve, this is cool, and get a free quote today. Now, if I test this out, let's see what it says. We'll select chamber cleaning, test, and submit. Okay, and it says, sorry, something went wrong. Please try again or call us directly. Okay, that's perfect. The footer looks pretty nice as well. That includes everything that we need. Some of this looks a little bit boring right now, but I think once we get some images in here for these services, it'll look really nice. And yeah, I really like the base setup that they have for this site. In fact, it uses the exact blue. I don't even think I gave it the blue that we're using, but it's using pretty close to the same blue that these guys have. I also need to get a logo in the corner here, but that's what we're going to do next. Now, when you're building one of these websites for a client, it's important to consider how you're going to get the images for the website. And you really have three options. Option number one is you can generate them with AI if it makes sense and if the industry isn't too niche and there's enough training data out there on the images that you need to generate. Option two is to use stock images from online sources such as Unsplash or Unsplash Plus. And option three is to actually just source these images from the client. And the client might have had a professional photographer come and take these images, or in some cases, maybe they just took them on their phone. And sometimes that will suffice as well, depending on the images that you need. But overall, those are typically the options for building a local business style website. Now, after doing a quick search on Unsplash, I found some images that are somewhat related to this, and this one right here looks pretty specifically related to it. It's got a picture of an industrial tool that they use to sanitize equipment, and if I wanted to use this, I would need Unsplash Plus, which is $7 per month to get access and rights to use these images. The other option is to just use ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to generate an image of an autoclave industrial sanitizer in a hospital, and it started generating it, but then it gave me this warning here. This is a very slow moving process, and sometimes it won't be as accurate. So my final recommendation is to just use images that the actual client sends to you, source things from them. But sometimes this is slow moving as well, so we might use a combination of these options. For now, the first thing that I want to do is just to get the logo in here, but we can add the images later. And for now, I might even be able to insert some placeholder images, but I want to show you guys how to go about getting that logo in there, because it will be a similar process when you're inserting images in your app, and then you can just take this process and repeat it. Next, I need to enable read-only access for the public. So I'm going to head over to my buckets permissions, bucket policy. I'm going to hit edit. And then we're going to paste in this policy right here. So it's just allowing this action of get object for this bucket. So now I'll go ahead and save changes. Now, if I go back to the objects here and I click on this one right here, I should be able to go to this URL. And as you can see, it opens up the logo and I can access this publicly. So I'll just copy this object URL here. We'll head back into our terminal and I'm going to close this and we'll just open Claude back up. And then I'm going to resume our last conversation that we were having here. Use this link for the logo image. And I'll go ahead and paste the public link and send it off. Now it's reading the header component and hopefully it can go in and add that logo. Looks like it did. Perfect. I'll just say yes. And it's editing some of the styles here. It's changing it from a logo text. So it's going to remove the text and just change it to a logo image. It's giving it all of the different styling that it needs and the hover effect that it needs. So let's say yes. And once again, it's changing the header component to move from a text logo to the image logo. So we'll say yes again. It's also checking the footer now to see if the logo is located anywhere in the footer, I would imagine. And it looks like it is, so we'll just pass the logo into there as well. All right, now we'll build. All right, perfect. So now we will exit out of here again, and I'll run npm run dev. We'll get it up and running, and we'll see if we have our logo. And would you look at that? We have the logo right here with a nice hover effect. And if I go down to the footer, let's see if we have it down there as well. Yep, we've got the logo here as well. Only problem is it looks like it stretched it out a bit, so I will need to tell it to make sure that we retain the aspect ratio. The aspect ratio is just the ratio of height and width on the image, and when that gets changed in an image when we're editing it, it can stretch the image out and make it look a little bit weird like this, which is just unprofessional. So we'll just ask it to retain the aspect ratio on the image in the footer. The logo looks good, but in the footer, we need to retain the original aspect ratio of the image. It got stretched out too much and it doesn't look good. So make sure we always use the aspect ratio as it should be and we don't stretch out images. All right, and let's see if this makes the fix properly. Before it was just giving it a height, but now it's giving it a max height, and it's also doing max width 100%. So it should just say anything up to 50 pixels tall, and then whatever the width should be, it should go to that. And it's also changing the header to max width 100%. I didn't ask it to change the header, but that's why we have these confirmation steps. I'm just going to trust that this does this properly, and it still looks good. Let's continue here. Still working on some of the header. Maybe they did have it stretched out a bit, or maybe it would be on certain screen sizes. So it might be good if we just have a max height instead of having a predefined height like that. And so that I can do this a little bit faster and I can keep Claude Code open, I'm just going to open up another terminal where I can run this and stop it. And we'll just do cd to our documents, cd to projects, cd to pssc, and then I'll do npm run dev. And here we have the site. Let's see if it fixed it. All right, perfect. That looks a lot better, a lot more professional. Even though it's a little bit smaller, I think that's okay. Now I want to make sure that we use the same exact blue. It looks pretty close, but I doubt that it has the exact blue that we need. So what I'm going to use is Color Slurp, which is a very handy app for just dealing with colors. And what I can do is I can just use the color picker. I can hover over this and it'll tell me the hex code representing that color. So this one's 0066CC and this one is 5A539F. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a reliable part of this color because as you can see, it kind of changes as it goes when you're down at the pixel level. But if I go over to the P right here, it's pretty consistent across the P. So I'll go ahead and click this and it'll copy the hex code. And now I'm just going to say, make sure that we use this for the blue color throughout. Don't use any different blue color other than this one. And we'll go ahead and paste that in and hit enter. And it should go through and make sure that those blues all line up with that color of their logo so that we can stay on brand for them and make the site feel professional. And look at that right there in the theme.js, it's changing our global styles in one place so that we don't have to go through and change every little bit of the website. That's why these global styles and this theme is so powerful. So as you can see, it replaced the primary with the exact color that we needed, but then it also created a primary dark and a primary light for when we're in hover states or when something needs to be a bit of a lower color. So you do have some contrast, but the primary color they're using is that main brand color. And this is exactly what we want. So I'm just going to say yes. And now it's changing this in our global CSS as well. And now we can build. And now if we check out the site, it doesn't look much different, but I can definitely tell that it's now using the correct blue. Some of these hover states are not quite right. As you can see, it just blacks out the entire button. These look pretty good, how they hover. But overall, this is looking pretty solid. So next, let's start working on the services pages. And I also want for it to, when I hover on services, for it to show a drop down of the different pages that they have and the different services. So we will need to make a drop down component with all of the services listed, and then we'll need to make a base services page as well. Next, let's create a drop down on the services menu item. When they hover it, make sure that it's consistent with our other styling. Also, I want to get away from the rounded edges and make the buttons slightly more compact and professional looking. Also, make sure that the hover states on the button are more subtle, less animated, and also make sure that the contrast on the hover state works properly. Right now, the text sometimes disappears into the color of the button on the hover space. Let's go ahead and send that off, and hopefully it can make a few changes and build a drop down for us all in this one go. Now, this isn't totally advisable. I think that Claude Code's going to be able to handle this because this is a pretty easy change, but I'm giving it a lot of steps here. So first, it's going to create that drop down menu, update button styles, remove rounded edges, make compact, fix hover states, and we may have to also make some other things a little bit more compact as well. But overall, it looks like it's creating the links in the hover state. I think this should be good though, guys. I think this is going to look a lot better because right now it looks a bit cliche with those rounded buttons. It looks more like a tech app or kind of like a futuristic type of app. But I want something that looks a little bit more professional because they're dealing with pretty high ticket services here. So if I look at the page right now as it updates live, as you can see, it's just bringing these in as a simple list of links, but it should go in and do the styling in a moment to get these looking like an actual drop down. So that should be good. Let's just continue going through here, hitting yes. And that recent change just did it. So now services shows these properly coming in. So I'm happy with that. And it looks like it's updating the button styles next. We'll also need to update the card styles here because these cards currently have rounded edges too. And I'm not a huge fan of highly rounded things. I think it's just been so overused. So we'll definitely have to update a lot of these cards. We'll have to update the form as well. I just want to get rid of this rounding before we get too far into this. And like I said, I've built hundreds of websites for both clients and for myself. So this is something that, I've really kind of gotten a feel for. Sometimes a client will come to you and they'll be like, hey, I really want this website to pop. I want to make it very unique. But at the end of the day, you want to be thinking of their end customer on their behalf. What is their end customer after? Do they want a complicated website to scroll through, or do they just want a quick way to contact you? So we're going to continue on here and we'll see what it generates. Okay, and it looks like it's already removing the rounding from the cards as well. And I didn't even ask it to. It just assumed that, hey, we need to fix everything because I said I don't like the rounded edges. So that's actually really encouraging to see. And now it's fixing border radius on the form. I'm just going to keep hitting yes through these. And when it's done with these styling adjustments, I'll be right back. All right, so it's done with that, and everything looks pretty solid on the site, if I do say so myself. It's using these squared off edges instead of that rounded look, and some of you guys might like the rounded look, but I don't think that it fits this company too well, so that's why I've opted to just go with the squared edges for this one. In terms of the content, because I'm starting to look at this, and some of this stuff might not actually relate to this company. I don't know if they can do 24/7 response across the country. I don't think any sterilizer company can do that. There's a few things here that we're going to need to fill in with the company's advice and help. So this is going to take another meeting to do that. I also don't know if they have set hours, so that could be something to remove as well. And so there's just a few things that I'm not going to be working on in this video because I don't want to get hung up on the details that I'm going to be hashing out with the client. But I just want to get all of these pages built and a base for this website. So we're going to go through now and create all of these pages. I may also make the contact page just pull them directly to the bottom of the page, just like this get free quote does, so that when they click contact, it doesn't bring them to a separate page like this. I also want to rearrange the order of services and contact. And honestly, like contact, get a quote, all of them do the same thing. They bring them to that contact form there. So there's multiple ways for them to contact this company. And ultimately, we may even have another form up here at the top, just so that there's lots of opportunities for them to fill out the lead form. So let's get that lead form kind of figured out. I'm just going to say, okay, the lead form at the bottom looks good. And I like the get a free quote button, how it brings them down to that. Let's remove the contact page altogether and just have lead forms and buttons that drag them to that lead form. I want a smaller, more compact lead form on the right side of the header area. I also want to make sure that the get a free quote button, the get a quote button, and the contact link bring them to the bottom of the home page with an anchor tag instead of bringing them to the contact page. Let's just remove the idea of a contact page. I also want to change the order of the navigation so that it goes home, services, then maybe have testimonials in there, which would just anchor them to the testimonials section on the home page, and then have contact last in that section there. So it should say home, services, testimonials, and then have contact be the last item with the anchor link. All right, let's see if this creates a little bit of a more usable website for this use case. And by the way, an anchor link is just a special type of URL that adds a small pound symbol or a hashtag right after the URL. And we can just tag that anywhere in our page so that it will auto scroll there on the page that you select. So it's removing the contact route. All right, so it's creating the compact lead form here, and let's make sure that it's also using our API key. Yep, it is. And the webhook URL, perfect. Okay, this is great. So now I'll just hit yes, and we can work on that form automation in just a moment. I just want to get all of the visual side of the website done, and then we'll build that kind of back-end automation for handling their leads. So it just wrapped this up, and here we have the quick quote form, and this isn't quite what I wanted. I wanted it actually to be on the right side of this hero area right here, but I thought the header also had this included in that element, so I think I just worded that slightly wrong, but it did move the services, and it added testimonials, which takes us to testimonials. It also added contact, which takes us down to the full contact page here, so that's great. We do need to fix this quote box, and I think it can contain everything. It just needs to be more compact, and it needs to be right here. So we'll just work through that. The quick quote area should still include all of the fields that are needed. Just merge the name field on all of those. We don't need that name field to be two separate on any of those. Also, move the quick quote down to the header or the hero image. We don't want it in the actual navigation. We want it in the hero image. We can also left align the text in the hero image and get rid of the get a free quote button in the hero image. Just make view services the primary button in that, and make the quick quote say get a free quote. All right, let's try that. All right, and this is all complete. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the website itself. And this is more of what I was going for right here, guys. There's things that I'll be nitpicky about. Like, I don't know that this should be centered. I almost wonder if we should just right align the navigation so that it's over here, creating a more balanced layout. And it might even be okay to just get rid of this button altogether and just have services up here. Other than that, we're going to get some images loaded in here for these services. I think if we just load in every service in here, that'll probably be good instead of just showing the 4 main ones. And then I can also remove this button eventually. Why choose PSSC? I want to move this to maybe 3 items here and maybe put them in cards. What our clients say, this looks fine. We can edit this with their actual testimonials and maybe an image of the hospital that they did the work for. And yeah, areas we serve. This I'm considering turning into maybe like a map image that shows all the places that they've served as little pinpoints or something like that. That might look a little bit nicer. And then the get your free quote today. This looks good. And they aren't in Southern California, so we will have to remove that. I'm going to ask the client if they want to just target the Midwest or the East Coast or where they want to go exactly. I want to right align the navigation links so that those show on the right side in desktop. I also want to remove the view services button on the hero area. And in our services, make sure that we list all of the services as cards and add, instead of the emoji, a top image that spans across. For now, that can be a placeholder, but put a spot where we can add in the AWS links in the future once I get images for those, and make sure they link to the proper service. You can also get rid of the view all services button on the our services. We'll have a way to get to that, and we don't need that. That will be redundant. Also, for the why choose PSSC, for that section, I want to make it 3 cards instead of 4. And for those, we can get rid of the emojis and we can just use a basic icon, use some kind of simple icon library. For testimonials, make those cards slightly more compact and make it a grid of 3. For now, let's just go ahead and delete the areas we serve section. I will be working on that in the future, but for now we don't need it and it's not relevant. Remove the hours from the footer. We don't need that. And you can also remove the privacy policy and the terms of service links and center the all rights reserved message in the footer. Now this next batch of changes should get our homepage all set up how we need to. And then from there, we just need to go in and insert images, change up the text in a couple spots, but this will get the layout how we need it. All right, and it just wrapped up those changes. So it moved this over to the right, got rid of that extra button there. Let's check it out. It's got some placeholders here for all of our services and it's listed them all. If I scroll down here, it has some better cards and I like this. It looks a lot less tacky than the emojis. Emojis would be fine for certain brands, but for something professional and high ticket like this, I think these icons are going to work a little bit better. Made these more compact and it says get your free quote today. Perfect. It also got rid of the hours and the extra links down here. So one other thing that I want to do is get rid of this gray background on the select a service. Other than that, I think we could make these icons a bit smaller and get rid of that gray background and we should be good to go and start working on these other pages. Make sure that the select a service dropdowns on the forms are matching the white color and the gray placeholder color of the other input fields. Right now, it's a gray background for the input box for the select a service. We need to fix that. I would also like to make the icons on the benefits smaller and more compact. Speaking of compact, it's now compacting the conversation, and I wouldn't normally recommend this for more advanced projects, but in this case, it should be able to understand our project well enough since it's quite simple. So I'm going to let it compact the conversation, and we'll get back into the changes and getting the rest of the pages done after that's done. Okay, so we finally have everything looking pretty solid. We have our get a free quote form over here, and all of these look nice. We also down here have these placeholders for these images so that we're not just filling them out with emojis that won't be there. Down here, we have these a little bit smaller for the icons. We also have our testimonials and the get your free quote today section at the very bottom, nice and big. And we removed some of the things from the footer that we don't need. Now, what I want to do next is start generating the pages, mainly these services pages, so that if somebody were to click around this website, it would actually take them somewhere instead of the 404. Now that we have the base styling down, let's create a page for each of the services and the overall services page as well that lists them out and gives some information about each and then a link to each of them. Also include image placeholders where those image placeholders will be, and include the compact form on the top of the service pages next to the hero text. Do a web search that basically aims to understand these different services, and then once you're done, create copy around these that we can have on those pages. Make sure to use similar icons to the ones that we did on the homepage. If you do want to use icons, don't use emojis. All right, and now it should generate the rest of our website. Okay, so it's listing out a bunch of different web searches, so I'm just going to approve all of those just with the yes and don't ask again for web search. All right, so everything's all wrapped up now. I'm going to run npm run dev, and let's see what we get over here. Okay, so I should be able to go to services. I can, perfect. It just lists them out. Very nice. And it gives the why choose PSSC. That looks good. And if I go to chamber cleaning, it gives us chamber cleaning services. I'm not sure exactly what this is right here. Maybe an image potentially in the future. Okay. Cleaning frequency guidelines. Nice. Schedule your chamber cleaning. Cool. And it changed the button color to this green for the get a free quote. I don't know if I like that. And I'm also not sure about this image yet. Maybe that should be on the left side of why regular chamber cleaning matters. Okay, cool. So if we go into sterilizer installation, very similar page, except it gives a little bit more detail around that. Sterilizer maintenance. We have some good information there. Sterilizer repair. This also looks pretty similar. The cards are a little different on this one, so that's something I will look at. Let's see if these pages have that. I don't think they do. Oh yeah, they do. Okay. So they have like those block quotes, essentially. Okay. This is interesting. It's autoclave maintenance. Autoclave installation. This one might be a little bit different. Okay, cool. And buy detergent. Okay, buy detergent doesn't yet have a services path, but the rest of them do, so that's good. And so for the most part, this is all set up. The only thing that I would have to do now is I would have to go in and give the bucket URLs for these images. And I also want to move these images over to the left side in line with this. So I'm going to let Claude know on that. So I'll just end that and we'll open up Claude here. And I'm just going to resume. The services pages look pretty good, but that image I want to be in line with the text that's underneath it on the services pages. I want it to show on the left side while the text shows on the right side. So for instance, on the chamber cleaning page, it would show up on the left side of why chamber cleaning matters and the text underneath it, not above it. So do that for all the services pages, and also for the buy detergent page, let's make a simple page that they can use to buy detergent through a link that we provide. Also, maybe include some information about detergent and what type of machine they have. Okay, let's send that off. All right, so let's go ahead and refresh this page and let's see what we get. Okay, perfect. So now it is left aligned right there. That looks a lot better. So hopefully that changed for everything. One other thing that I need to change is this get a free quote button at the bottom. I don't like that in green per se. Where does that take me, by the way? Doesn't take me anywhere. I'm just going to tell it to turn that into a quote form as well. All the green get a free quote buttons at the bottom should actually just be a instance of the form that we already created. Don't make it a get a free quote button. All right, let's go ahead and try another refresh now that we've got those forms in there. And let's see what we're working with. Okay, cool. So the forms are here. That looks good. Pretty happy with those. Let's see if the buy detergent page is here. Doesn't look like it is. I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to say Hey Claude, let's make a page for this. Let's make a page for this route. All right, now let's see if it generated a page for this. We'll just go back in and restart that, and boom, we have it right here. And they have some different products that are available right here. Why order from PSSC, compatible with all major brands, place your order. Okay, so for this page, it looks like they created an all new form just for this. And we still have the normal get a free quote form up here. So let's maybe move available products up here, put this as the header, and then we'll remove this for now. And we'll also remove the place your order at the bottom. Okay, so I'll go back in. I want to remove the get a free quote from that page. I also want to remove the form at the bottom. I want the top header to be the available products section, except instead of it saying available products, I want it to say the message that it says in the hero, where it says buy autoclave detergent, order professional grade autoclave cleaning solutions online, premium detergents designed for all major sterilizer brands, fast shipping and competitive pricing with expert support. All right, let's send that. All right, that's done. So let's check it out once again. And it looks pretty good. This doesn't need to all be a header though. It did take exactly what I said though, it looks like. Okay, that's good. All right, so we could go gray, white, and then we could go gray again behind frequently asked questions. And this doesn't need to be a header totally. Above the products, make it so that part of that is a header, but part of it is just normal subtext. And then down on the bottom, where it shows frequently asked questions, make that switch to the gray backdrop, or at least make them alternate. I don't want the same background behind frequently asked questions and compatible with all major brands. All right, let's see if that worked. Okay, nice. This looks better, and it properly alternates. So that looks good. So now we have all of our services pages. This brings us to testimonials. This brings us to get a free quote. This brings us to the main services page. This brings us home, of course. All right, the next thing that I have to do is build the N8N automation out so that we can receive those form entries, and we can also go ahead and pass that off in an email or put it into a Google Sheet, or maybe even both. So I asked Claude, I said, how do I generate an API key from my terminal? And it gave me some ways that I can do that. Now I'm just going to be using this command right here, but since I'm putting this video out in public, I'm going to be storing that securely. After I run this command, it'll give me the key that I need. And then from there, I can use that for authentication in N8N. And I'll show you guys where to put that key as well. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up this project in VS Code so that I can see everything that I have so far. And I can also add this to a .env file. So this is the .env.example. I can just go ahead and copy and paste this. And then I can go ahead and rename it to just .env. And now in the .env itself, I can add in all of my credentials here. But that's optional, so I can actually remove that since I'm just going to be passing it all of the public URLs. And we also have business information. Optional, can be hard-coded if preferred. Okay, so I could put in the business information here as well. I can hard-code that as well. That's not a big deal. We just need the public N8N webhook URL and the public N8N API key. So I can generate this locally using that command that I just showed you. And then we can also get this webhook URL from N8N. So I'm going to generate the API key and I'm going to put it here, and then I'll also show you where to put that in N8N. Meanwhile, over in N8N, I'm just going to add a first step, and we're going to go with a webhook. And then for this webhook, we can switch to the production URL. I'm going to make it a post. And here I can change the path if I wanted to, but for authentication, we're just going to go with a header auth. And then I'm just going to create a new header auth. And for the name, we'll go with authorization. And then for the value, I'm going to type in BEARER and then space, and I'll paste in the API key right here that I generated in the terminal. All right, so since I generated that, I'm just going to paste it right here, and then we'll go ahead and save this after I name it PSSC forms. And like I said, you're also going to want to put that API key in where you have your N8N API key over in your environment. And then I'm also going to copy this production URL here, and we'll put that instead of the webhook URL. And now that I have those set up in my application, it should be able to send information over to this webhook. I also have the HTTP method on post. So let's go ahead and see what happens when I run this webhook. So I can activate this, and I'll make sure that I run npm run dev in my directory there. And then if I pull this back over here, this get free quote should now work with N8N. So I'm just going to put in some basic information, and we'll select a service and tell them more about our needs. I need my chamber cleaning completed. All right, now hit request quote. And it says sent. We'll contact you soon. Okay, cool. So it must have indicated that there was something working. Now let's check N8N. All right, so I'm here in N8N. I'll go into my executions. And as you can see here, we have a successful execution. So that means that it actually did go through and hit that webhook. Now, if I copy to editor, I'm going to see that there's some information in this webhook. Now, at a very simple level, I could just add a new node here. We could add in a Google Sheet or something, but for now, I'm just going to do a set fields node so that I can map everything over. So on the bottom here, I see a name, email, phone, service, message, and timestamp. I also see source, which is really nice, header compact form. I was going to actually ask Claude to add that, but it's great that it already added that. So let's just go ahead and map these fields. I'm just going to say name. Can pop that in there. We can do email next. We can do phone. We'll do phone, service, date for the timestamp, message, and finally we will add in source here. So this is great. Now what I do with this from here could be just sending it off to something like Google Sheets. If I wanted to have a document where they can access this, so I might append or update a row or append a row in a sheet. That's probably the best way to do it. And then after that, I could send an email with Gmail. So we could just do Gmail, send a message, and that could pretty much be the entire automation. Just get the webhook from a form that gets filled out, the fields go here, goes into a sheet, and then it sends the message. Now what I could do is I could also at the end of all of this confirm that we received the form fill. So that way I can send that back over, and we truly can let the user know that we received their message. And if this workflow were to error, it wouldn't actually get to the end and send that confirmation. So if I wanted to do a respond, I can respond to the webhook. And maybe here I just add a message. So we could just do set field once again, and I'll rename this to success. And here I can just write in result and success. That now once it goes all the way through, it's going to hit back to the respond to webhook with the first incoming item here. I could even grab some JSON and I could put in the result success right here just to be safe. So we could go result, and then I could drag in the result from over here just to indicate that this went through completely. And then we can say to our application, when you receive a respond to webhook, go back over to the website and say, hey, this sent all the way through. We can have a bit of a loading screen between that. Now, what I can also do so that this is easier to deploy and so that I can update versions of it is I can create a repository here. So if I create a repository on GitHub, this is going to make it easier for version control and deployment. So let's go ahead and just name it pssc-website, and we'll go ahead and change it to private and create repository. And I can actually go back to my terminal and I can just tell Claude, since I have GitHub authorized and signed in, that I want to put this in my GitHub repository and create a branch called main that has all of our stuff in it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to paste in the GitHub repository. Hey, can you make this the main branch in my GitHub repository? Make sure that you add anything dangerous to my git ignore file if there is anything in there. And just send the full thing to GitHub so that it's ready for deployment on Netlify. All right, I'm going to go ahead and send that off. So I added my .claude directory to the .env, or I mean the .gitignore. .env was already in there. And now we'll initialize GitHub. We're going to add everything that I have in here, and it's creating the git commit. It's setting up GitHub remote with that repository that I gave it. So now we can update GitHub from our terminal right here. All right, perfect. So now let's make sure this all uploaded to GitHub. It does say that it committed 28 files, so let's check it out. All right, perfect. So it has everything in here except for our environment variables. And when we deploy the site to keep those private, we actually just add those to a secrets manager. Something like Netlify offers it directly in the deployment. So you can just re-enter your environment variables in there and it keeps them secret and safe. Now I'm just going to import a project from GitHub over on Netlify. And I just selected my PSSC website there. And now I'm just going to give it a project name of PSSC-draft. And we're deploying the main branch. And here we can add in our environment variables. So I'll go ahead and add the key value pairs. So we need the public N8N webhook URL, and then we also need the public N8N API key in here, and then we would paste the values for those right here and right here. So I can actually hide this when I paste them in so that you guys can't see them, and I'll paste in the webhook, and we'll paste in the API key like so. And now if I just hit deploy PSSC-draft, it's going to say project deploying in progress. And now we just have to wait for a moment and it should actually deploy this and have this live to the web. Now, obviously there's some more work to do on this site, but once I'm ready, I can actually point a domain to this site straight through Netlify. And what I would recommend is getting your domain on Cloudflare and then just pointing Netlify over to that. Now, I'm not going to do that right now. I just want to show you guys that this is live. So let's head over to the live site. Okay, perfect. So it is live right here. As you can see, everything is working properly. And let's make sure that our get a free quote form works. For now, we just have the webhook saved. I'm not going to add all of that other stuff after it quite yet. I'm just going to do that off camera because those are some extra details. And if you guys are interested in N8N automations, then you can check out the rest of our content. We have lots of content on N8N. So this isn't what this video is about, but I did want to show you the bit where you have to connect it. And then also that idea of being able to respond back to your application with the respond to webhook node. So this is good to go, and we can go ahead and test it from our live site. So let's just see if this works. I'm going to hit request quote, and as you can see, it is not working. So let's go ahead and try to import our environment variables a little bit differently in Netlify. So here I've navigated to my environment variables in Netlify, but I'm going to try to import from a env. So let's just go ahead and try import from an env file. And then I'm just going to copy my entire environment variable and I will just paste everything that's in my env directly into here, but I'm not going to do that on screen. After I do that, I'm just going to import variables though. I'm going to check contains secret values and I'll just go ahead and paste that there. And then we'll go ahead and import the variables in a moment. All right, now I'm going to go to my deployment options and retry without cache with latest branch commit. And it's going to rebuild this. And hopefully now that I've got those environment variables swapped out, it should work. All right, it's published. It deployed in only 17 seconds, which is perfect. And now we can test this out again and request quote. And perfect, it worked that time. So let's make sure that came through on N8N. And it does look like we got a new execution. So it looks like that did go through. It hit our webhook and we can click into here to verify that it went through. Now, what I would recommend is adding a password page over top of all of your website if you want to keep this private until you send it to the client. And what you can do is you can just tell Claude to implement a password page. You can add an environment variable for that specific password that gets you into the site. And you can redeploy that by committing to your main branch and then redeploying without cache from your latest branch, just like I did there. And that's also how you can continue to add features to this. That way I can send a public facing version of the website over to the client. I can tell them the password so that only they can access it. They can look through the site, they can critique it, they can give new suggestions. And then once I'm ready, I can actually go through, remove that password page, implement their suggestions, and deploy the website. From there, I can point it to a domain that I have somewhere so that this is actually public facing using their domain. I hope you enjoyed this live build, and if you want to see more fundamentals, if you want to learn about this stuff, or you just want to watch some uncut vibe coding from me, then I recommend checking out my course, Amateur to Engineer. Now, this is my flagship course. I've been pouring months into it recently, and really it's my main focus right now to upskill people in this industry of software development, because this is one of the fastest moving spaces in AI. We intro with economics of AI, and here I give you a great understanding of how software development is changing and how new entrants to this market can benefit from that shift. So whether you're a newbie with programming or you're a more experienced software engineer, you are going to get a lot out of this course. So definitely check this out using the link below if you want to see more content like this.